Well, it's springtime, and I have grandkids in the community, and my wife has long loved... We had chickens when we were in Wyoming, okay? We had 50 Rhode Island red hens until one of the neighbor dogs came over one night and wiped them out in the great Christmas Day chicken massacre. And so this just seemed like a real good time to get back into the chicken business.
Welcome to another episode of the Essential Craftsman podcast. I'm Nate. I've got my dad here, the Essential Craftsman. How are you doing?
Just great.
I hate to do it, but we're going to talk about the quarantine. I think this is the only thing I've talked about for at least a week now with almost everybody I've talked to. So sorry, everybody. I'm sure it's the same for you.
But you know your subject anyway. That's a good thing, right?
I don't know how you can talk about anything else. I've never even imagined this, and I've imagined all sorts of like end of the world scenarios, but not a stay at home, don't leave the house because of a disease quarantine. This is
when
weird.
Everything else is fine.
Yes.
When the power's on and the grocery stores are still stocked, but we
Yes.
stay at home because of a disease which in our area really hasn't manifested itself here. Once Douglas County has one case, as far as we know.
Well, as far as we know. Yeah. The testing really is, not to go into the virus, but that definitely is like a weakness in all of this. Like, we just don't know.
Yeah.
Man, it is just crazy. And so in Oregon, we are to stay at home. Non-essential businesses are to shut down,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Close the doors. Lock.
Well, I didn't actually read the order. What does that mean, non-essential? I know that's like gyms, but restaurants,
Gyms and theaters and restaurants and schools, churches. You know, no gatherings of before it was no gatherings over 10. Now it is everybody stay home unless you are part of it. You are either needing essential services or you're part of an essential service provider.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the sawmills, the lumber industry around here is designated essential service provider.
Yeah.
And to the limit of the information that I've received, construction is also essential service.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ride that horse in a responsible way.
I saw that also, that construction is considered essential. I think I saw it in an email from Home Depot, actually, because they're staying open.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like that is definitely essential.
Sure
You
is.
got a repair or a hot water heater exploding or something.
That's right.
Like
a doctor's office plumbing water heater goes down, or a faucet blows up. You got to be able to fix it.
What we want to talk about is kind of what we're up to. This is more of just an update about Essential Craftsman than any type of real valuable information. And so we want to kind of just let you guys know what it is that we're up to. It might be interesting to you, and what we are going to be up to over the next, let's say, 8, I don't know how long this will last, but at least 6 or 8 weeks, I think, right?
Let's say 6. Let's put a happy face on it and say 6.
Okay. So why don't you start? What have you been up to the last week since we've kind of been in lockdown?
Well, it's springtime, and I have grandkids in the community, and my wife has long loved... We had chickens when we were in Wyoming, okay? We had 50 Rhode Island red hens until one of the neighbor dogs came over one night and wiped them out in the great Christmas Day chicken massacre. And so this just seemed like a real good time to get back into the chicken business. So I've taken out one wall on one of the wings of the shop. It's nothing that you've ever seen in the videos, but I have a lean-to on one side of the shop. I'm opening that up, and I'm putting a little chicken coop under the roof of the existing shop so that I can open up a trap door and look at the nesting boxes, and then I'm going to put up a little fenced yard just on the outside of that, set up, I don't know, maybe 20 hens. And day after tomorrow, Kelly's going to go to Coastal Farm, which is a great farm supply store here in Roseburg, and it's part of their spring chick days.
Wait, is Coastal an essential service store then, I guess, if they're open?
I think so. They sell livestock feed, and animals have to have their groceries, right? Like the rest of us.
Cool.
They're a grocery store, just not for humans.
Interesting.
So they're having their spring chick days, and once or twice a week they get so anyhow, we're going into the chicken business in a small way. Wow. So that's one thing we're doing.
Oh, that's pretty neat. We haven't discussed this, but have you been filming that at all?
I just couldn't make myself do it.
It's really hard.
It was rainy too, right?
Yeah.
So you got the camera, and we'll do part of it.
If you guys have ever tried making a video and like a workbench video, it is so hard to do both. It's like these two completely incongruent activities. Yeah. It's really hard to kind of get anything done and film it. So I don't blame you, but also you need to film some of that.
Yeah, I will.
All right. So for me, the last week I did my first live Q&A on this channel, on the second channel, and I think it went pretty well.
I do too.
And that's going to be something going forward that we're going to do more of. We're actually kind of worried about our business in general for lots of reasons. Things are just changing so fast. We don't know what the impact will be on Google and YouTube and all of the advertiser companies who spend their money there. I don't know.
Yeah.
The one thing that is in our control, it feels like, is to put out more content and try to make better videos. And so we're going to try to do that.
We have hesitated to even use the word business in conjunction with our social media thing, because we started out doing it just strictly for love.
Yeah.
And then it got to where you're doing something for love full time. There has to be some sort of a business component. And so it has morphed to that. And so it does make us nervous now, because back to the chicken metaphor, we've got at least I have most of my eggs, pretty much all my eggs right now are in this basket. And so we'll just see what that means. You made those good moves in Arizona, and you've got that storage project and that other property, those other 2 properties down there, or 3.
Yeah.
So you're diversified.
But
Smart kid.
They're exposed also. I have a vacation rental there, like a VRBO, a little condo, and I had a guest booked for a month. It was I think it was like a $3,000 rental agreement, and they split. Yeah. And that's like small potatoes compared to what other people are losing and the losses that are happening. So I get it. It's like, it's not that much, but it's a lot for me and my family. And we don't know. And even the storage business, I've had one tenant move out, and I think we'll fill it up pretty quickly, but there's going to be some friction and some bumpiness.
And every one of you listening to this is having either are having or know people very close to you who are having these experiences. So we don't consider ourselves at all picked on or picked out or isolated in this. It's everywhere.
Yeah. So the one thing that I feel like we can do, like I mentioned, is put out additional content. So I didn't tell you this yet. I think I'm going to do a live stream every week. I think on Wednesday, kind of like the last one, a Q&A. I don't know how valuable or entertaining it will be, but I'm going to do it just for the practice of my own skill set and ability to speak to a camera and develop a skill. So if you want to subject yourself to watching me battle up the learning curve, you can, but I'm going to kind of take this as an opportunity to plan ahead and try to develop some skills in that way. So I'm going to do that on Wednesdays, I think. Super. And I mentioned this in the last one, but we're going to have you try one of those as well if you want. Yeah. Probably from your computer, so you can see it a little easier. But we're going to do a little more content.
If we can work around my techno limitations, we can figure that out.
We're going to put all of this content on the second channel because we don't have any interest in changing the type of content that goes on our main channel. We want to, and we've tried to always keep the quality consistent and the feed consistent. In fact, that's one of the reasons why live streaming has never really been attractive to us. Every time we've tried them, we look back and they kind of look and sound terrible, and they're not real focused. And compared to our other videos, which we were kind of proud of, it always felt like, oh man, that thing.
Yeah, we don't want to waste your time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll waste your time on the second channel.
Yeah.
All right. So what about, you got any blacksmithing happening? Are you doing much of that maybe after the chicken coop?
I've got that. I've been filming a sword. I've been making a sword for Tara Vincent, and she's about to come home from England early. She's been on a mission over there, and the pandemic has got a lot of missionaries coming home. But I had promised her dad years ago that anyway, I'll give you the details on that when you see the video on the sword, but it is without question the nicest Damascus sword I've ever made. Mm-hmm. And I'm just trying to muster the courage. I'm to the last step. I've got to etch that thing and then assemble it. And I've got cold feet. I've kind of psyched myself out about
what can happen with etching. That's
scary. if it's uneven or yeah, and then I've got a little bend in the end of the blade that I would like to take out with some light hammer blows at some point. I've got to do a final polish, and then I've got to etch, and so it's just the final steps where disaster can be global disaster.
Yeah,
and so I've about talked myself into taking the plunge. So I'll be filming that. Oh, and one other thing, I just got the coolest old coal forge. It's one of those cast top Buffalo Forge and Ironworks from whenever they were in business, and it is factory. It's the factory blower, the factory pipe, the factory cast forged factory legs, all of it straight, intact, rusty, needs to be restored. And so that'll be coming up. But that just got offloaded in the shop, and I'm excited about that.
Let's talk about the Spec House a little bit and what effect this quarantine might have on that. Now, as we've mentioned a couple times now, construction is permitted to proceed, so we're going to be able to work on it. But do you foresee any impact on that all getting started again, or what are your thoughts?
There could be. I'm having the windows were delivered last week. They're leaned up inside the house. The siding and the trim is going to be delivered Monday next, and then we'll start installing that on Tuesday. And if this lockdown gets any tighter, or if the fellows I've got lined up to help me with the siding get sick, or if they decide that they have cold, that they, we're vulnerable to their schedule a little bit.
Yeah.
But I would think once the siding's on there and it's time to move inside, that we'll be able to keep this thing moving along pretty good. One of the offsetting benefits is that construction workers need paychecks just like everyone else. And if there's a paycheck available and work to be done, I'm sure that over the next month or so, there are going to be people who, if the quarantine lifts and if the conditions are favorable and if people are careful, will be anxious to remain productive.
Yeah, just because construction workers can work doesn't mean all of their clients and people who they were doing jobs for were interested in tearing their kitchen apart or whatever.
Right.
I have a feeling a lot of that kind of stuff has been put on hold for a minute. I know I would.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. The benefit to the siding is you're working outside.
Yeah.
These three fellows that I'm bringing in, I've been a three-man crew for the last 5 years. They work side by side all the time.
Yeah.
And so they pass their germs back and forth regularly. And right now they're all healthy and they will be working together. And so there's nothing irresponsible, in my opinion, about this if a week from now they start in on the outside, if they want to. But there's no pressure from my end. If they don't want to, if they want to just shelter, they can do that too, and we'll hold the spot for them.
Yeah, we ought to have some masks. If you can even get masks.
I have masks.
Yeah. My wife is homeschooling our kids at the moment, which is kind of a new thing for her and a lot of moms, and for me as well, I guess, because we got school stuff spread all over the table now. And I got to say, I kind of like it, actually. I think the kids are learning more than they were at school.
They're getting a lot more one-on-one attention from a teacher.
Yeah. I don't know. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I don't know if they're learning more, because I guess I didn't really know how much Leo was even learning at school.
Yeah.
I kind of didn't know. He would do homework, but it was homework that was very easy for him. So I don't know, but it's nice to kind of be able to see what he's working on and the things he's learning. And so I've kind of enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I don't know if Allie has to the same extent, but
different perspective.
So before we wrap up, let's talk about the content we have coming up. We've got a lot of Spec House videos that are going to continue to move forward.
Would you say we're halfway done that? I think we're about to the halfway point on that house. If you include site prep, retaining, drainage, all of that, I'd say we're getting close to the halfway point.
Yeah, I would say so. I have a hard time predicting what is going to be the halfway point for the videos. For example, framing took 30 videos or 40 maybe, I can't remember.
Yeah, maybe 35 videos. Yeah.
For example, I don't think the plumbing and electrical will take more than like 1 or 2 videos. And so it's possible that the framing is like really the lion's share of the whole thing. I guess I just don't know, because at the same time there's every appliance, is got to get installed, and every bathroom tiled. I don't really know what to expect on how many videos are coming out.
Let me just kind of make this up, because you have a much better sense of video size and how much, but I can see probably three or four videos on the finished carpentry, inside, case, base, doors. Yeah, there's some projects in my life that are coming up that I've been talking about for years that could be presenting as content pretty soon. For instance, there's a great big willow tree right by the house that you've probably seen in different videos. My grandkids are just at the perfect age and coming up on the perfect age where they would enjoy a tree house. Mm-hmm. So I think we'll put a tree house up there and get some, film a little bit of that. That D2 cat that you've seen me struggle with a few times. I found a factory angle blade with the pump and the reservoir and the valves from a 1943 model, I think, that should go right on there. So we're going to put the blade on. Got to extend the track frames for that. Got to put I'm going to turn that little D2 into a baby logger probably. Mm-hmm. There'll be a lot of content there, and then decide what comes up after that outside of the blacksmith shop, which will be a continual source.
Well, there's a lot of things that we could talk about. There's certainly a lot of other tradesmen. There's local businesses that would be fun to bring the cameras inside, show some of the machinery and very specific trades and skills that happen, there. For example, the North River Boat Factory. We don't know anybody there, but I would be really interested to see the big molds and presses and stuff they use to stamp out these boat holes.
Actually,
and stuff.
Interesting to that. So Jeff Lorenzen, the concrete pumper that I've used, Brothers Concrete Pumping.
Yeah.
You guys have seen him a couple times, and you'll see him a couple times more. His dad just stopped by the Spec house 3 or 4 hours ago. I was over there loading some lumber, and he started North River Boat.
Oh, well,
yeah.
There you go.
So that there will be ways to access the aluminum boat building industry around here, which is a decent little industry in Oregon because we've got rivers and waterways and coastlines and lots of fabricated aluminum. I've been thinking thoughts about if I was going to build something again, what would it be? And right now I'm not super excited about that, but I can see that it might draw me back into it, in order to stay in shape as much as for any other reason.
Yeah.
We've talked about ICF buildings, and we've talked about a little tilt-up project. We've talked about various things. Don't know which, if any, of those would come to fruition. It's going to depend on how the Spec House resolves itself, but we're beginning to think about what next for the main channel, and there are lots and lots of directions it could be concentrated on for a period of time.
There is so much good information and new content coming up onto YouTube, new channels who are taking it very seriously and putting out really beautiful videos, even about framing and building the same types of things we're doing. I was watching videos from, I think, the Perkins brothers or something like that, and like the R&R building guy, and
he's awesome,
and all of the other workbench channels. And we would rather make something that might be new or different, and as opposed to making more of content that is the same as all these other types of content.
Yeah.
So if there's something in particular you think that you'd like us to think about, let us know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's about everything to touch on this. Any other comments or tips about quarantining and what it is our viewers can expect over the next few weeks from us?
Try to think what this is going to look like to you a year down the road, and you look back and say, man, I missed that one chance in my life to do X, Y, or Z or whatever it was, and let's do that thing.
I'm really lucky because I actually I'm kind of a homebody anyways. I like being home. I'm not as much interested in traveling and going out as like my wife is. So for me, it's kind of like lucky break here because the excuse I've been waiting for is to stay home. And I think there's a lot of people who are.
That's why you talk about this lasting 6 months. I see it now.
But I should say, and I'm sure a lot of people have had their travel plans challenged, but we had a bunch of traveling kind of lined up, you as well, this spring and summer. Allie was going to Arizona. I needed to go to Arizona for the storage thing. All kinds of stuff that we'll talk about in time, but I guess the whole year has just been obliterated. Whatever you thought 2020 was going to be, it's not.
It's not.
Oh. And the same for us. Hopefully we can still get the house done and at least stay on course in the most important ways.
We will.
Well, thanks for listening, everybody. We really appreciate your steady support, watching, leaving comments, thumbs up, sharing it. It is just so helpful, and can't thank you enough, and we will catch you next time.